Welcome to the Airbnb Roadmap, the podcast designed to navigate you through the entire journey of short-term rental success. Whether you're just starting out or ready to take your hosting game to the next level. My husband and I became super hosts within just months of launching our first Airbnb and have proudly kept that title ever since. With over 350 reviews and an overall 4.95 star ratings, we picked up a hack or two I'm excited to share with you. In each episode, I break down the strategies, insights, and industry secrets that set profitable short-term rentals apart. From choosing the right property, understanding local regulations, and obtaining your listing to go beyond just the basics. I'm here to share everything you need to succeed. So if you're ready to map out your path to Airbnb success and unlock the full potential of short-term rentals, join me on the Airbnb Roadmap. Your journey starts here. Hey, I'm Brittany Wenninger with Porch Realty, powered by Real Broker LLC, and welcome back to another episode of the Airbnb Roadmap podcast. Today's life update, we are officially going to be looking for yet another Airbnb, which is very exciting. This one is teamed up with my really good friends down in Texas. This is Clay and I's very first partnership. So, we know what we're doing, but honestly, not really. And they know exactly the whole situation. They're like, yep, use us as guinea pigs and kind of learn, and we will learn together. And honestly, this is their very first Airbnb as well. So, they are helping us with figuring out how to navigate capital partners, and we are helping them get into the STR world. So there's a lot of pros for each side, and I'm very excited because they are, again, really good friends of ours. And if I were to do this with just like a stranger or a past client, I would be extremely nervous. I would be nervous to talk to them, nervous to bring up some negotiations and whatnot. But with them, we honestly just shoot the shit. And it feels very natural, which is good. Kind of backstory with them, they are going to be married in December of this year, which is very exciting. And I have actually known Anna, so it's Anna and Kyle. I've known Anna since I moved to Madison, and she is someone that honestly just has never left me alone. We worked at the hotel together, and I remember one day, she comes in and she's like, hi, do you need a roommate? And I was like, hey, Anna, how's it going? We weren't really great friends at the time. She's like, do you need a roommate? And I was like, living at an apartment, so no. And she's like, well, your lease is going to be up and you need a place to move. Do you want to be my roommate? And I was like, let me think about it. And at the time, she, when you look at a scale, she was way up there in scale with energy and all the things. I was a little bit more low key back in the day. Didn't really go party and whatnot. And I was like, I don't know about that. And I would say a week later, she comes back again. She's like, hey, so are we going to be roommates? I'm like, okay, take it down a notch. I have no idea. I don't think so, to be honest. Sorry. And then she was like, hey, I found some apartments for us to look at. And I was like, whoa, what? What is going on? So I was like, fine, F it. Let's just go look at apartments. And we found one that we loved. And she's like, so we're going to be roommates. I'm like, yep, we're going to be roommates. And ever since that, we have been really good friends. Unfortunately, she did move from Madison, went to Minnesota, and then Minnesota to Texas. But thankfully, we did stay friends. And now look at us. Now we will be partners for a business venture. And did little Brit ever think that, one, we would own as many Airbnbs as we do? Absolutely not. And two, be business partners for a long time with the girl that just kept on bugging me about being her roommate? Absolutely not. So it's happening. It's very exciting. And now we are in pursuit of our next Airbnb. And it's just going to be very fun to do it with friends, to be honest, because their style is our style. So it will be a joy of a time. And that kind of brings me into today's episode, which is today's market, because we are now officially looking for a property. So what better episode to actually do a quick market update. And before you hit the snooze button, to kind of like hang in there with me. I know real estate market updates are not the funnest, but good news. Things are changing, and that means opportunity, especially if you know how to negotiate smart. So let's just kind of get into, if you are a first-time investor, if you are looking for a short-term rental, now is a great time. And I hate when real estate agents, lenders, pretty much anything in this industry, they always say, now's a good time, now's a good time, now's a good time. Because like, they always just say that because they try to, get you to buy that house or sell the house or whatever. But truthfully, when it's a buyer's market and you are a investor, it is always a good time to purchase because you can negotiate. Now, when it's a seller's market, then obviously like your negotiation power isn't as strong, but usually when it's a buyer's market, then the interest rate is a little bit lower. So there's always like a pro and con to everything. But right now, there are significantly more homes on the market than there are buyers, which means there are a lot of motivated sellers out there that just need to get rid of their property so they can move to another place. For the Wisconsin, well, this is actually Madison, we have a Facebook page for all of the realtors, and there is a gentleman that posted saying, hey, please comment the address of your motivated seller. These are people that need to move. They will accept something underneath the listed price. Put a comment and let's try to get these sold. Now, usually back in the day, the number of comments were probably like around like 5 to 10. There was 46 comments of listing agents that need to get their property sold. So that just kind of shows you that people are motivated. And when there's motivation, there's negotiation. Now, I think that the wild thing is that on a national level, listings are up 24 to 31% year over year, hitting post-pandemic highs. And obviously, this is giving the buyers more opportunity that we've seen in years. In fact, over half of the homes are now selling below their asking price, which is an average discount of around $45,000. And homes are staying on the market longer, now averaging around like 58-ish days, giving buyers time to actually ask for more in their offer. And while, mortgages are still high, prices are still high, they are finally starting to ease a little bit, which is so nice. And the interest rates are still hovering around 6.5% to 7%. But remember, and this is one of those things, I hate the saying, but it does make sense. Date the rate, marry the house, which means you can marry the house, love the house, and if you do not like the interest rate and it goes underneath, let's say you locked in at 6.5 and interest rates lowered to 6 or 5.75, you can always refinance. Now, there is going to be some money toward that, like it costs money to refinance, but most of the time it's 100% worth it. So date the rate, marry the house, and this is something that a lot of investors do is they negotiate like crazy with their property and then they refinance once the interest rates actually. Let's actually get into some negotiation strategies that you can consider when putting your offer together. And again, I have so many STR specialized agents. If you're looking for a short-term rental, please reach out to me first because you could get in so much of a pickle if your agent is not actually like into short-term rentals because there's a lot of things that can go wrong. So if you're looking in any area in the US, reach out to me. I probably have someone that I know because this is kind of like a tight-knit industry. So reach out to me first and then I will get you connected with a short-term rental agent, because they will know exactly what to put in these offers, because they know the craziness that will be coming with short-term rental investors and trying to get that property before things shift again. So let's first talk about seller credits. These are so underutilized. It's ridiculous, but they are so powerful. Instead of dropping your offer price, you can ask for a credit toward repairs, upgrades, or closing costs. It helps you preserve the cash flow for updating the short-term rental property without altering the seller's net take-home price. So let's actually do a quick example here. So let's say that the house is $400,000, and I'm literally going to pull up my calculator right now because math is not my strong suit. All right, so $400,000 and 3% is $12,000. So the house is on the market for $400,000. You offer the seller $400,000, and you say, "Hey seller, I want a seller credit of 3% of the purchase price to go toward closing costs and prepaids." Now, what that means is that 3% of 400,000 is 12,000. You are going to bring $12,000 less to the closing table, which will save you money out of pocket. So let's say you needed to bring, let's just say, you know what, you are bringing 10%, the down payment's 10% of 400,000. I should have known that, 40,000. But closing cost is going to be around 4%, which is 16,000. So if your closing cost is 4% and that's 16,000, now with that verbiage in the offer, now you are only bringing $4,000 instead of $16,000, because you said, "Hey seller, I want you to give me a seller credit of 3%. Hope that makes sense. And I kind of explained that very poorly, not gonna lie. I usually do a much better job with my clients, but today, I didn't really have that much sleep last night, so I'm a little struggle bus. But anywho, so you were only bringing $4,000 to the closing table because you have the additional verbiage. Let's say that your lender is like, "Hey, closing cost is only going to be 2%, which is usually not. They usually doesn't happen. But let's just say it. Lender's like, "Hey, closing cost is going to be 2%, but in the offer to purchase, you put 3%. What are we going to do with that additional percentage?" Now, this is a trick that I learned from another short-term rental buddy of mine, that you could say that you take that 1% and you actually say, "Hey, let's escrow this." Again, after everything has to be amended, but you escrow the 1%, and you want that to actually be paid toward your interior designer. And what pretty much happens is that the title will keep that 1%. And once the job is done from the interior designer and they bill you, you can actually have the title company pay the interior designer. And that's how you kind of work around that additional funds that, you can't use at the closing table. So that is another trick that I actually just learned. I've done this with septic. I've done this with other bigger projects like siding and whatnot. I've never actually done it as a contractor work, like interior designers, which obviously siding is a contractor work, but never actually use it for a designer or, a painter or anything like that. But you can absolutely do it. So that is a fun little trick that you can use for negotiations. Another thing that you can do is ask for a professional cleaner. You can actually include this in your offer and just, have verbiage like, "Seller shall pay for a professional cleaner prior to closing." And also you can kind of get into details of the inside of the fridge needs to be clean, the stove needs to be clean, so on and so forth. Because what I have found is we have actually spent a couple weekends at our Airbnbs just to clean it to actually start renovating. Because, well, especially with our last one, oh my lordy, they even had a professional cleaner in there and it was still filthy. I think I spent 3 whole weekends, and granted, my husband was definitely doing other shenanigans, but I just could not take how dirty this place was. I literally cleaned for 3 weekends. The fan had like probably an inch of dust on it. There was cobwebs everywhere. Every single corner had a cobweb. Like the ceiling, oh my God. I literally was gagging because I was wiping the ceiling off in the kitchen, and I thought that the color of the ceiling was like a little pinkish, like tan/pinkish. No, the color of the ceiling was actually white, and it was just a huge coat of just grease and oil. And I'm pretty sure he cooked a lot of salmon because the smell of my dirty rag literally reeked of salmon. And now whenever I smell it, I'm like, like I literally gag. So, and we actually negotiated a cleaner in the offer, which is wild because he's like, oh yeah, how was the cleaning? I was like, either this girl really sucked or it was in way worse condition than I see it, and it's still in really bad condition. But anyways, if you know that the property is pretty rough when it comes to cleanliness, absolutely put that into the offer. You are not going to offend anyone. And you can even say you have bad allergies. They're not going to know. So just say, I have bad allergies. I'm so sorry. I'm going to put this into the offer. You guys need to pay for a professional cleaner to deep clean the home. And that will actually save you a couple weekends of just cleaning. So I absolutely would put that into the offer. Now, the third strategy that you can put into your offer, and honestly, you can do all three. You can just do 2 of these. You can just do 1 of these. Like, you do you. But that is actually having the seller pay for the full year of property taxes. Now, sometimes it's not a significant amount of money, but, money is money. And there's one, okay, this is going to sound kind of off topic, but there's one thing that my dad always taught me when it comes to negotiations, that every single cent counts. So I remember when we purchased my very first, well, it was actually my second car. My first car, I got it from my grandpa. Cadillac DeVille is pretty cool, 1996, I believe, and the horn literally sounded like a train. I thought it was really cool. Anyways, that car kind of went to crap. So then we had to get another car, which is the Chevy Malibu. And I remember watching my dad negotiate, and I was like amazed. I was like, you are such a boss. What he did was he negotiated the thousands of dollars. So he was like, hey, and this is when you can actually negotiate with cars. I feel like nowadays you can't. But anywho, he negotiated the thousands of dollars off, and just to kind of push this guy's buttons a little bit further, the guy was like, all right, do we have a deal? And my dad had a pen in his pocket, and he just looked at the price. He crossed off the last 3 digits of this price and said, if you can make this 0, we have a deal. And the last 3 digits, I think it was like $738. And the guy was like, okay, so you want this to be 0? And he's like, yep, if you can make it 0, we have a deal. So then the guy went back to his manager, and then his manager was like, yes, like, of course, we'll just knock that off. My dad looked at me at the time, and he was like, every dollar, every cent counts. Because think about it, what did I say, like $38? I think it was around there. $738 is, let's say, 7 weeks of groceries, or your utilities for a couple months. $138 is a lot of money, but when you see it in a bigger price tag, it doesn't seem that much. But you always have to think about, you just now saved $738 by literally doing 1 line across the last 3 digits. So whenever I negotiate on boats, cars, whatever it is, I always cross off the last 3 digits, and I say, if you can get that to 0, we have a deal. And most of the time, people will actually do it because they're like, oh, grand scheme of things, like, that's not that much. But for the buyer, it is. So circling back to taxes, sometimes your property taxes are only, let's say, $5,000. But if you think about it, that's $5,000 less you have to pay a year. And that will help your bottom line for that first year. Because when you open up a Airbnb, a short-term rental, there's not going to be a lot of people coming through the house, like the first couple of months. But every penny counts, especially if you're purchasing in the beginning of the year. If you're purchasing in the beginning of the year, absolutely try to get the seller to pay for the full year of taxes. If you are purchasing toward the end of the year, you know what? You're still going to probably save $1,000. $1,000 is still something. So try to put that into the offer, asking the seller to pay for the full year of property taxes. And that will just save you some dollars, save your bottom line, and will help you cash flow even more. Now, my final tip for negotiations is if, let's say, going back to the $400,000 example, and you did 3% seller credit. If you actually need that house to be $375,000, do not offer $375,000. Because most of the time, and I swear, I would say it's like 8 out of 10 times, people will just come back and meet you in the middle. I don't know why. I feel like people really suck in negotiations, but 8 out of 10 times, people will just counter back and meet you in the middle. So if you need that purchase price to be $375,000, I would offer $350,000 and say, hey, this is just where we need the numbers to lie. Let me know what you think about that. That way, if they do accept it at that $350,000, hell yeah, that's amazing. Go get a glass of champagne and go celebrate. That is freaking awesome. But if they come back and counter at $375,000, then you're going to, in your head, you're like, dude, that's exactly where I needed the price. I'm still happy. The numbers still work out. Life is good. And if they offer $385,000, then just counter back and say, you know what? My bottom line is the $375,000. If you can get it to that $375,000, let's have a deal. Because now in their mindset, it's going to say only $10,000 and I can get this house under contract. I can move to my next home, move to my dream home. $10,000 is not that much. And if they have a good listing agent, and that listing agent's probably going to be like, you know what? This is the only offer on the table. If we are only, trying to figure out $10,000, let's make it work. And that is negotiations 101, maybe 102. Some of the stuff is a little bit more complicated, but it's definitely something that you can do in this market today, which is quite amazing because, again, every penny counts, every dollar counts, especially when it comes to your cash flow. Overall, the amazing part is that this is not a bidding war era, which will help any short-term rental investor out, especially the first-time investors, because now you are not offering an arm and leg, your unborn child, or anything like that just to get your very first house. Now you are actually strategic. You are actually smart about your decision with the property, and you're not just, throwing out an offer, hope it gets accepted because you just now are, competing with 5 or 6 other people. Now you are probably going to be the only offer and you can actually be wise about it. Quick little story about Clay and I's second property is we were not wise about it. Yes, I am a realtor. I should know better, but when you fall in love with a property and you see your family, like our second property is going to be a lifelong property. I want to see our baby girl play in the yard and all that stuff. So I got very emotionally attached and we were competing against 9 other people. And what do? We waived the inspection. We did a appraisal buffer, we offered, I think it was $10,000 over the asking. Overall, we got the property. We are in love with the property. I'm still very happy that we got it. Everything happens for a reason. But there were definitely some things that came up in the inspection. After we purchased the property, there were some things that we discovered in the cabin. I'm like, oh my God, we 100% would have caught this if we had a inspection in there. But they did admit that they accepted our offer because we waived it and no one else kind of had the balls to do that, which, I mean, should we have waived the inspection? Probably not, but here we are. So we were not wise with our second property, but we got it, and it cash flows a lot of money, so I'm happy. So think about now you are able to find that golden nugget opportunity, golden nugget property, and now you can actually negotiate instead of offering your unborn child, because that's pretty much what everyone was doing back in the day. Yeah, if you are looking for a property and need an agent, let me know. I got you. I can hook you up. And if you just want to run some things with me, go for it. If you find a property and you really like it, you can send it my way and I can give you my unbiased opinion. So yeah, let me know if you need help. And until then, I will see you next time on the Airbnb Roadmap podcast. Thanks for joining me on the Airbnb Roadmap. If you're loving these episodes and want to keep the conversation going, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast with someone who's ready to dive into the world of short-term rentals. Got a question or topic you would love to hear about? Reach out. This podcast is all about learning and growing together. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram, the Airbnb Roadmap Podcast, for more tips, tricks, and behind-the-scene insights. Until next time, here's to turning your short-term rental dreams into thriving realities. I'll see you back here soon.